Hello, and welcome to Tackling the Climate Challenge. My name is Brittain, and I have the pleasure of introducing this event. I sit on the Tech Nation Insurtech board, and I'm also one of the founders of the Insurtech Gateway. You'll hear more about both later. And along the way, you're also going to meet Victoria, Jemima, and Hannah at various points too, with a number of guests we brought today. The idea of this event first came from a discussion about boosting innovation in Insurtech at one of the Tech Nation Insurtech board meetings. We thought it would be interesting to lay our stall out to groups trying to solve the biggest problems in the world, to find and connect climate innovators and groups who are trying to solve massive and important problems, to see if together we could accelerate their growth and get them access to the investment in insurance markets. So we hope and assume this is the first insurance event before, and that's great. We thank you for suspending disbelief. Or should I say, we thank the groups who have helped us meet some of the climate founders who are here today. We thank Net Zero and Femke Bartels, both of whom you'll meet soon, and of course Tech Nation and their wider community, for making this not sound like an insurance event when they reached out to you, for making it sound like an event where we could help make things happen. And our aim is to show you over the next 2 hours how we might help you achieve your goals. And at the end, we hope to create some form of working community. And this is part workshop too, so that's to be determined. And we have various ways in which you can express to us and we can share with you ways in which we might make that more useful to you as a capability, where you can access guidance and capabilities. For the wider group, I've got 2 statistics for you. We always get excited about statistics when you're starting businesses and trying to raise finance and other things. But these numbers are staggering. Last year, 76% of the economic losses resulting from natural disasters weren't covered by insurance, despite climate data predicting more frequent and more extreme weather events. How are we still so helpless to prevent and react, and how can we do better? And the second statistic was sent to me recently from a group called ARC in Africa, the African Risk Capacity Group. And they did a study to determine that every dollar spent on risk capacity saves $4.40 in post-disaster recovery costs. So it feels like there's a massive opportunity for Insurtech to grab insurance and bring it to this space, to see if we can prevent and get in early, to mitigate, to close protection gaps. So that's what's inspired us to be here and to do this. So I want to reassure you, if this is sounding a little bit mysterious, that you're in the right place. If you're a climate or you're a social entrepreneur and you're looking for a viable space and support to get started, yes, this is good. If you've got a great cause and you're not a backable business because you can't quite crack your business model, maybe you'll find some people to help you here. If you're a VC and you're looking to offer more impact to your investors, if that's the new language is, I wish I could find more impact support, then you're in the right place. If you're a distributor or an insurance broker and you're looking to bring something new to your customers, yes, you should be here. If you're an aid expert or a donor and you're looking for more effective methods to intervene and help, yes, thank you for coming. And if you're an insurer looking for new profitable lines of business or to do more than your ESG guidelines, we hope we'll provide you an innovation path today, along with technical experts in data and risk, looking for applications for their game-changing technologies, and softer skills in research and storytelling and networking, and the gel that bring a lot of these things together and turn them into stories that are investable and campaignable and supportable. To government who are supporting these initiatives with tax deductions and great big events that draw the media's attention and help focus our efforts and inspire events like today. And last but very much not least, deep domain experts who really understand problems that need to be solved and why stuff didn't work, and can explain why we shouldn't do it again. You're in the wrong place if you're change, whether it's true or not, to talk about policies or your ESG guidelines today. this is not a forum for this. There are other forums, and maybe we could have some direction for you if this is what you want. We're here to make businesses happen. We're here to help climate entrepreneurs understand how we can support them to launch businesses using insurance and investment. This event is brought to you by the people in the middle. The Tech Nation Insurtech board is a group from the insurance industry, and or should I say the Insurtech industry, who promote investment, partnership, and innovation in the Insurtech sector. And Insurtech is a new term in itself, the technology disruption of insurance, which is generally in two sides. One is from ways of modernizing the sector, but also incredible new ways of closing protection gaps, mitigating risk, transferring risk that are happening more and more now as technology is getting deeper and deeper into insurance and making it a far more open and interesting and more agile industry itself. Insurtech Gateway, my pet project too, is an incubator and investor who specialize in early stage business models. And we have many investments in businesses looking at climate resilience. And I'm delighted to say that two will be speaking soon. You're going to meet Femke Bartels and Sammy from Net Zero very soon. And they have been instrumental in helping us draw together this group and understand this place in the middle, because we really didn't want to preach to the Insurtech community. We wanted to open ourselves up to the climate and social entrepreneurs. So thank you very much again for your help. Our aim is to be a catalyst for a new kind of innovation, an ecosystem of problem owners, capability owners that can work together, where real problems, really, really hard problems to pin down. And Insurtech and insurance is woeful at solving real problems. We tend to try and make insurance faster, or we try to make it more efficient. But meeting climate resilience problems is incredible, has been an eye-opener for all of us to really understand how hard it is to really make a difference. But the interesting thing that Insurtech is really good at, we've centralized our capabilities quite well, quite fast. They're very, very hard to assemble a combination of regulatory support, investment support, underwriting capability. It's not perfect, but we can all connect well already. We are an established ecosystem. And I think we've got quite a head start here. And you'll see from the businesses that are showcasing today how they have tapped into some of these components of the ecosystem, being able to make incredible progress. My day job at the Gateway, we've been a catalyst to 20 businesses starting, involved working with 26 insurers and 25 VCs, and who together have raised £100 million. And many of you are here, and I thank you very much for your support in showing up. I'm now going to move to the running order of the event. So following me now will be Sammy from Net Zero. And then straight after that will be a fireside chat with Femke for 15 minutes. Then we will have a panel of Insurtechs to give you a sense of how they started and how they managed to get breakthrough models and engage with the ecosystem. And then there's some round tables. And those round tables are designed not just for networking, but for you to ask the stupidest questions you feel like asking. Because we're really trying to break down some barriers here and to make connections. So please feel free to ask anything. And the facilitators of those groups are all going to be saying, please don't worry about asking that question again. And at some point or another, there will be some polls. I'm not technically exactly sure how this works, but things you can vote on, where you've come from, is it working for you? And I believe somewhere on your screens is a chat box. And we will be watching that chat box for your questions and trying to peel them in so that we're listening and evolving as we go. So that is the end for me. I have the greatest pleasure now to introduce you to Sammy Fry, who is the Net Zero Program Lead at Tech Nation.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Stephen. It's great to be here today. So as Stephen said, I'm Sammy Fry. I'm the Net Zero Lead here at Tech Nation. And we're really delighted to really be playing a convening role in this important topic about how Insurtech can play a crucial role in combating climate change. And just before I go into a bit more detail on that, I'd like to just first thank the Insurtech board and also our partners at Insurtech Gateway for really just supporting the growth of Insurtech over the past year. Insurtech's seen a growth of 61% year on year as of 2020. So that's been really great to see. And it's of course great now to really shine a light on how Insurtech can help combat climate change. To give a bit more context, tech in general has a fundamental part to play in decarbonising the world economy, but support is really needed to accelerate the growth of climate tech, whether it's across the energy sector, transport sector, built environment, agriculture, and even finance and insurance as well. And at Tech Nation, we're already doing this through a few different initiatives. The first is Tech Zero, a government-backed initiative where we're supporting tech companies across the world in setting net zero strategies and targets as well. And also our Net Zero program, where we support 32 climate tech companies a year who are creating technologies to reduce emissions. And what's great is that the current forecast is looking promising. Climate tech is expected to grow from a market value of $8.8 billion to $48.4 billion between 2020 and 2027, which is really what's needed to achieve net zero by 2050. But just to outline how important this is and to outline really the scale of which we need to grow, currently 45% of technologies we need to achieve net zero are yet to be used in a mass market, which really kind of outlines the importance to grow the sector. To give a context to the companies we support, because we're mainly focused on mitigation, historically at least. We support a company called Sphera, who are creating the world's first carbon zero and carbon negative bricks to decarbonize the built environment. And a company called Ripple Energy, the UK's first clean energy company, which allows you to partly own a wind farm, along with many other companies as well. But of course, it's clear that when we speak about, our focus is on mitigation. However, it's very clear that we need to focus on adaptation as well, and the role insurance has to protect ourselves and local communities to really combat the effects of climate change. And for us as well, what's also true is that we often see climate change through a rose-tinted glass, in that we're focused on the technologies to reduce emissions. But as Tortoise Media put it yesterday, New York is underwater, Siberia is melting, California is on fire, and climate migration is already happening. And with climate change, we're already seeing severe impacts on natural and human systems, leading to increases in droughts, wildfires, and extreme rainfall. Unfortunately, after last year, as Stephen said, 76% of the economic losses resulting from natural disasters weren't covered by insurance. Luckily, there is now an emergence of companies looking to utilize satellite data and on-ground data to ensure insurance can play a vital role. A company in our cohort is called Earthblocks, who support insurers to quickly monitor and report on natural assets and human impacts in remote locations worldwide. Another company is eHab, which is helping to manage weather risks across construction projects. And of course, you'll hear from Floodflash later today, who are supporting companies in the event of flooding. However, it's really clear that this is an emerging market. Climate insurtech isn't really a very well-known sector. We really need much more innovation within the sector, which is why it's great today to be playing such a convening role in bringing key stakeholders together. So with that said, I'd like to thank you for having me, and I'm really excited to see the inspiration that comes out of today and the connections that can come out of today as well. So I'll now hand you over to Femke Bartels, who's the former executive director of Greenpeace, for the fireside chat. Thank you.
Welcome back, everybody. Here I am in a fireside chat with Femke Bartels, who I am delighted to introduce, to talk about the new potential of Insurtech to build resilience in communities facing extreme weather events. For those of you that don't know Femke, and you will very soon, she is the managing director and partner at Think, the School of Creative Leadership. In addition, she's a board member for the Social Science Department at the University of Amsterdam, a board member of the Museum of Tomorrow International, and a guest lecturer at UCLA, and a former executive at Greenpeace. And might I say, and also a great and old friend of mine who I'm delighted has lowered her guard to listen and get involved in this. After graduating in international relations, Femke specialized in her career in system change, innovation, and creative leadership. She's led successful campaigns, teams, and organizations across sectors, cultures that made a positive change. She's worked for government, politics, a global NGO, and now she heads up Think. And I wanted to mention that point earlier because this really started, this idea started, it was initiated with talking to Femke. And 6 months ago, before I start this question, Femke, I wanted to remind you that we had a conversation and you said two things that really stuck in my mind. When I said, yeah, we're going to do some climate stuff. And you gave me the kind of eyebrow look and said, you do realize how big this is. I mean, it's not like you can do climate on Wednesday and then you can start doing the future of cars on Thursday. This is absolutely massive. And you're only going to succeed if you focus. And hence this event has narrowed from us trying to talk about climate to us talking specifically about climate resilience. So anyway, thank you for giving us some guidance because this is clearly massive and it is full of good intentions. I wanted to ask you, what experience has told you about making progress in this kind of space?
And I'm really happy nowadays that a lot of people are concerned about climate change and want to do something about it. But it's usually the kind of question, as you asked, like, what can we do? But it is about whether we get babies, what we eat, who we vote for. I mean, all of that determines what happens with our climate. So I think it's really important for people to understand where their strengths are, and therefore also where they have the most leverage. Because I think that's the cool thing about where we go to and where we are today, is about looking like, where can you make a real change? And I think for insurance, climate resilience is a key topic for that.
I remember you talking before about the first part of my career was trying to stop this. And I guess, no, my question is, what attracts you to take part in this initiative?
Yeah, and like, so I've been involved in trying to do something about climate change since 1992. And so that's a long time. And at that point, we still thought we can stop this. So it's about cutting emissions and through that, making sure that our climate isn't heating up and we wouldn't get any extreme weather events. Unluckily, the world hasn't acted fast enough. So we're currently seeing the impacts of climate change here and now. And one of the I think like a metaphor that describes it quite well is like an overrunning bath. That when you want to stop climate change, you're trying to close the tap. But when the bath is already overflowing, you also have to mop. And I think that's where we are now. We still need a lot of initiative in the world to curb our CO2 emissions, to make sure that we don't run into catastrophic climate change. But at the same time, we have droughts, we have floods, people are losing their houses, are losing their business, are losing their family. So we also really need to get our act together to provide solutions in that space.
I mean, I don't know what to expect to happen today. I mean, we obviously, it's the first thing we've tried to do together. What do you want to happen today? I guess maybe there's another question in there around what's one output that we might achieve. I just want to get expectations right for myself and for others.
Yeah, and so I've had a lot of people surprised about me being engaged in this event and going like, insurance, Insurtech, what's that got to do with all the things that you always worked for? And I think preaching to the converted is pointless. So for me, speaking to other climate activists or people active on climate change, it may give you a warm and fuzzy feeling, but we're actually not progressing the world. Same if all the insurance people are just talking together, like you will not get smarter than the average insurance person in the room. So what I'm really hoping from today is that because there's so many people from different expertise and different backgrounds, that through that we can find new opportunity spaces and we can fund new companies who are out there and going to reach impact at scale. And I think that's really unique about this composition and this day today. And I hope we're setting the first steps in a network where we're not just like talking like this, but also getting together with people and looking at, okay, so what are the kind of companies we could start in the drought, in floods, in fires, and get really specific and make sure we all get the people involved that are interested and bring expertise and networks on those topics. So I hope that from sort of planting a mind bomb and making people think, we will go to action together, and through that we'll do very new things.
Do you think, I mean, obviously we both connect on new companies because that's what I do, you know, that's what we do, a lot of us, is to create new companies. Is there a reason that why new companies? Can we not get old companies to do it too?
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows the big tanker, right? If you move it, it will have a huge impact, but usually it takes a lot of time to move it. And in my opinion, we need to do it all. You know, we need to have current big companies to change their direction and do things different. But there's a lot of, like for instance, if you look at climate resilience, there's a lot of uncovered ground. There's still a lot of blind spots where nobody is active yet. And in my experience, it's much easier to start new things there and start experiments with people who are willing to try and fail than to just get like the big companies together in a space, because then we get another meeting and before you know it, we're 20 years down the line and we don't have that time.
There's one thing in our earlier discussions, I noticed that that climate entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs are very good. They seem to be very good at defining problems. And when I look at Insurtech founders, they seem to be very good at defining solutions. I'm wondering whether today we could find a way of listing all the problems and listing all the solutions or something, so that we've got some kind of capture of better problems defined, better solutions defined or something. Is that asking too much?
It's not asking too much. I mean, it wouldn't be my analysis, but what I do think is like what I see a lot in whether it's in insurance or other companies, that a lot of people now want to do something about the environment, about climate change, about social equity, but they don't know what the problem actually is. So what is a risk of happening if you get a group together that are really enthusiastic to do something, but they don't understand the root causes of a problem, that you start solving the wrong thing. And I think that's why it's so good why people come together, so that you get people who fully understand the complexity and understand where really the leverage point is. And I think like one example that we spoke about before, because those of you who know Stephen, he wears Tom's shoes. That's an initiative.
That was a long time ago, Femke.
But it's one of those initiatives that you go like, oh, how great. They're beautiful shoes. They look good on me. And you buy one and then somebody else gets a pair for free, like people who are poor. So I also have like a clear conscience buying this. And so it sounds like a great solution for people who are only into solutions. But if you look into terms of like, what is the problem that you're actually trying to solve, and it's about poverty, then what you actually find is that, for instance, a village in Nepal where not all children have shoes, getting a pair of Toms is not helping. Actually, it may set them back because the local shoemaker that helps to make shoes or repair shoes is out of work with these kind of canvas shoes that they can't do anything with. So in that perspective, it's so important to fully understand what you're dealing with, but then also don't get stuck in what is all wrong. And I think that's where it's good to get a lot of different views and different people together, because then you can reframe these problems and then see where there are possibilities and opportunities. And that is indeed what I'm hoping for today.
Very good. Well, Femke, you've definitely warmed the fireside. Thank you very much indeed. I am going to let the rest of the group know that you can speak more to Femke on her own. She's got her own round table I dare you, because Femke has put me through my paces over the last 6 months of taking the Insurtech gateway back to the root causes and some of the problems that we thought that we could solve in order to come to this. But in order for her to represent this event, she made me go through the eye of the needle, I have to say. So you will see her on one of the tables. But first, we were going to be having a panel about titled, How Can Insurtech Have an Impact? Have we been left on air? No.
So hi, everyone. Thank you so much to Stephen, Sammy and Femke for some really great insights. I'm Jemima and help run the Tech Nation Insurtech board, and I will be joined by Hannah from Insurtech Gateway to moderate this panel. So for the next part of the session, we will be speaking to our selection of panelists to further understand how Insurtech business models are proactively reducing risk, highlighting the importance of data and technology, and the role of rapid response in building resilience and helping to adapt to the inevitable impacts of the climate crisis. We're joined by Adam, Jonathan, Maria, and Noel for this panel session, where we will be hearing about the innovation going on within their own businesses.
Thanks, Jemima. Let's kick off with Adam, co-founder of Flood Flash. As the name hints, Flood Flash provides commercial flood insurance. Adam, could you tell our audience what actually happens to small businesses in the wake of a big flood and give us a real example that highlights the benefits of a rapid response?
Hey, Hannah, it's bad, right? You know, just to state the obvious, when you have a business of any size, really, you know, small, medium, large, when after that flood, your property is destroyed, your stock is destroyed, your everything is covered in shit in every sense. Those costs are stacking up and up and up, and on top of that, you then can't operate while you get back together, and that can be for an indeterminate amount of time, right? That is bad enough as a disruptor on its own. That is made infinitely worse when that risk has not been transferred to anyone else, right? It hasn't been transferred to the balance sheets of those who should be built to take it. And that is the great irony of the insurance market, right? We say once we have established that it is likely that somebody needs our product, we won't sell it to them. Right? If somebody's at high risk of flood, whether it's because they're on the coastline or next to a river or if they flooded before, that is where the traditional market just walks away. And as these events become more regular, more severe, the industry is walking away faster and faster. That leaves 84% of catastrophic flood losses each year completely uninsured. That's $58 billion of uninsured. A $58 billion opportunity if you can find a way to cover that risk. And for those small businesses that do have insurance, right, that even then it doesn't help, right? If it's taking months for that claim to be settled, for that business to get back on its feet, for that business to be trading, the payout ends up going to the liquidators of the business. So it's just yet another reason how there's, as the climate changes, as these events become more severe, like both national and local economies become destroyed by these events as well, because we cannot get those businesses back on their feet. So we need to find a solution for that.
So 2 parts to the problem. Let's come back to the actual availability of flood insurance later and how a parametric product solves that issue. I know, big cliffhanger. And focus on why it's so important to get businesses their money fast.
So to dive into that one a bit, yeah. There's a great stat from, well, great depending on on how you look at it, from FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency in the US, that says that 90% of small businesses that don't reopen their doors within a week of a catastrophe will close their doors permanently within a year. And that stat tells the whole story, right? Speed of payment is not just a vanity metric. It is absolutely essential to saving businesses and saving livelihoods. That's always been a key part of the Flood Flash proposition and what we're trying to do. So when Storm Christoph hit in January this year, we were able to pay a full commercial flood claim in full in 9 hours and 44 minutes. And that's not from claim reported to claim approved. Like most insurers will measure their claims time. That is from water in the building to cash in the bank. Right? That is astonishing. And the business owner, a guy called James Waite, who that payout went to, runs a series of small like sort of holiday let properties in West Yorkshire. His quote was, "Without distance, that is the best insurance claim experience I've ever had." Like this makes a material difference to these businesses surviving, and that is why this is so important.
Thanks, Adam. Really interesting. Let's look at the other side of the coin now. Jonathan, Previsico focuses on what we can do to reduce the damage caused by floods before they happen. Could you give our audience some examples of the kind of damage we can prevent? Oh, Jonathan, I think you're on mute.
Classic mistake. So yeah, prevention is, as always, is far better than cure, and certainly is the case with flood as well. There is so much that can be saved. There's the really simple things which come to mind first of all. So vehicles, somebody's car, I mean, just be able to move that out of the way of flood and has a massive impact. You know, about 30 centimeters of water, flood water is what can cause a car to be written off. So it doesn't take an awful lot. Similarly, look at a house, into a regular household. They've got various items that they can hopefully raise off the floor. Very simple thing is just unplugging electrical items. So even though your TV's off the floor, just unplugging it to make sure that doesn't blow up as a result of floodwater coming in. And again, the same goes for businesses. And then finally, you know, you've got a much larger scale when you're looking at something like a BT, for instance, who we've been working with. BT shared with us the massive impact they have if one of their telephone exchanges goes down. Literally hundreds of thousands of people can lose their broadband and all forms of communication because of that. So there's some really significant things that can be done.
Okay, so how do we actually go about preventing this damage from taking place? What can we put in place to prevent that from happening?
Well, yeah, I'm glad to say it's not about talking. So, Femke, you'll be glad to know that the evidence is all out there now that a combination of timely and accurate flood warnings that give people the ability to take action to prevent flood loss is proven globally, whether it be through non-governmental organisations such as the UN and World Bank, or even people like the EU, who've judged that flood warnings actually deliver about a 400-to-1 return on investment, which is just phenomenal. And so by giving people, as I say, a timely, accurate flood warning, giving them a few hours to be able to prepare and take action to save valuables, the easiest stuff, as I say, cars, anything that's movable, very straightforward. Even things like putting gaffer tape around your front door when it comes to a flash flood can really make a difference.
And could you explain how Previsico's modelling technology predicts floods that are missed by traditional approaches?
Yes, so the way that our tech works is that we're actually pulling in real-time weather forecasts. So every 3 hours, we're pulling the weather forecast through our model, and that model is providing a forecast of where is likely to flood. So we're predicting down to an individual property level, the likely time and depth of which flood will occur. So that is this warning that we can then send out to businesses and people to help them take the action to prevent flood loss.
Thank you, Jonathan. Now to you, Maria. Ibiza are similar to Flood Flash in that you're looking specifically at an underserved community, but on the other side of the world. Can you explain the problem that you were solving and how you're working with insurers, mutuals, and agricultural value chain channels to provide insurance for the agricultural market?
Yes. So today, 98% of the agriculture production is not covered by any insurance. And Ibiza is a technology company focused in building and distributing climate insurance solutions for the agriculture in a cost-efficient, scalable, and innovative way, both from product and business model, designing and operating satellite-based parametric products and integrating these products with value chain players. We serve insurance, mutual insurance players, and agriculture ecosystem stakeholders like credit providers, input providers, or food companies to bring food security and resilience to farmers and to the entire agriculture ecosystem.
It really sounds like you're leveraging cutting-edge technologies in order to do this. Please, could you tell us a bit more about these technologies and how you're getting this product out to the community that you're serving?
So the technologies we are using are satellite data and the analysis of the data through machine learning to design our insurance product, but also to do the automated and remote loss assessment. For the loss assessment, we have built an engine of loss assessment that we work as well with a separate track that we call hybrid parametric. That this is a second step validation done by people in a way of a crowd assessment. And this is kind of a very innovative way of using a crowdsourcing solution into fine-tuning satellite data loss assessment. And of course, we use as well machine learning, and our platform has a component or is underpinned by blockchain so that we can bring also the trust, transparency, and efficiencies.
Thank you, Maria. And now turning to you, Noel, it's wonderful to see that as an organisation, Climbs are working with Ibiza on this project. Could you please tell us a bit more about microinsurance for those in the audience who have not heard of it before, and how important it is in building resilience within the communities that your organisation is working with?
Thank you, Jemima. Climb started in 1971 to provide social protection to the ordinary people which cannot reach by a traditional insurance companies. And it's organized in southern part in the Philippines. And since the beginning, the buzzword of microinsurance institutionalized, but we serve already microinsurance since then up to now. In fact, we are the biggest microinsurance provider in the Philippines. We are very lucky also that our regulator is very supportive. And in fact, they created also a framework how insurance companies can insure to the marginalized sector. And looking in the Philippines, we with a population rate of 111 million, and then with the typhoons of an average of around 20, and 3 or 5 of that are very destructive. So we had a partnership, partnership before in 2011, how we can provide insurance related to flood. And the experience in the Philippines, there's only one insurance, which is government-owned and controlled corporation, because no takers in the industry because of its huge catastrophic impact. And insurance are not pulling together how we can serve those marginalized sector. So since we have also a partnership with, we are lucky because we are a member of ICMIF, and then the policy that we started in parametric insurance, giving a meso level, ensuring a loan portfolio, and then how we can help the farmers. It's quite challenging, but we say on the last 3 years of our experience, it's very profitable. Its loss ratio is around 53%, but it was stopped because it's just a product push, maybe an experiment of some other insurance companies how to test in the Philippines. And since we have this product already approved by the Insurance Commission, then we link with ICMIF to IBISA, where we try to resuscitate these products with added benefits on the smart farming. And I think this will create a gap, connect the gap among the marginalized sector. Insurtech plays simplify processes, simplify also distributions. We have a very unique distribution channel in Climbs. It's really the cooperative that sells insurance. And then if we can link this together, there's already a need and we have already the experience. And I think this can help Filipinos.
Really fantastic work. And also looking forward, what does the future look like in this space? How do you think we can continue to use innovation to build these kind of relationships that you have with partners such as IBISA?
Digitalization in the Philippines is just starting up. We are just started. And then a lot of users already in the internet, but the trust on like parametric insurance, there's a new term on determination of claims, how we can use in a simple language that Filipinos can understand it. And I think the future for this is if we can build using data, satellite data, and then they can make it a difference on the traditional to this kind of insurance. And I think Filipinos can have a taste also on a technology-driven insurance and ease access of protection at the same time on claims. So market is very ripe. We can say we are a pandemic in the lighter side of pandemic. This gives us also a trust on the connection, like what we are doing today. And we have a good partnership with IBISA that already we started up. In fact, when we started this project, we just only meeting with Zoom. And here we already launched the product, the Climbs Weather Protect Insurance.
Thanks, Niall. I love how you're working with IBISA. Adam, earlier we spoke about how Flood Flash helps businesses recover after disasters and teased about how parametric insurance was a game changer in terms of getting businesses the protection they need. Could you explain how Flood Flash works differently to normal flood insurance?
Hey, Hannah, yeah, of course. So we stick a sensor that looks just like this, which is why I turned my virtual background off because I realized that was going to get filtered out. Wall of every single one of our clients. This sits there, detects if there has been a flood of a given depth, and if that happens, then we can send money straight away. Right. So, for example, we might agree £100,000 at 20 centimeters, another £200,000 at 40 centimeters, and those numbers and those depths the client chooses, so it works for them. And the same principle can be used to cover a small bakery as can be used to cover a nuclear power plant. Right? We have at least one Premier League football club amongst our clients, and one Scotch single malt whiskey distillery, which are I think between the two of them are our two favourites. That allows two things to happen. One is it removes cost from the process in terms of loss adjusters, right? There's no human loss adjustment process. Sensor tells us if there's been a flood. We have a look at the signal to make sure it's not somebody with a hose pipe. And if it does, we can make that payment. The second thing is which is slightly more subtle, but actually equally, if not more important, which is removes a huge amount of uncertainty from the underwriting process, which is something that doesn't really exist with very frequent events, or like traditional car insurance or home insurance. But when you're dealing with rare events, which natural catastrophe insurance is, yes, you have numbers that come out of models, but nobody really knows how good those models are. So by settling these claims on a parametric basis, it gives the underwriters significantly more certainty onto what they'll pay out, and therefore we can use this idea of parametric insurance to cover the highest risk areas around the world for the first time. And as more of the world becomes high risk, this is how we cover them.
And now that the customers know that they're covered to a pre-agreed flood depth, how does this help them take more ownership of and reduce their own risk?
So great question. So this is all about alignment of incentives, right? And when I think about how do we insure the world over the next 10, 15, 20 years, like the only way to do this is with products that correctly align incentives between the insured and the insurer, right? Like if I'm able to get traditional flood cover, it is difficult for the traditional insurer to give me a discount on my premium if I have, say floodgates, because how do they know if the rain's coming down on a sort of 3 a.m. on a cold February night that I'm getting out of bed to go and shut those. But with parametric cover, because ultimately the client is responsible for the first few inches of flooding, first few centimeters of flooding, they're getting out of bed to go and shut those gates, right? Similarly, the client can, by taking measures like raising their stock, for example, and introducing other physical resilience measures, it means they can choose their parametric trigger. And we see our clients do this. They can choose a parametric trigger at, say, 60 centimeters rather than 20 centimeters, and then they might immediately be saving like 80% on their premium. So both in terms of the activation of those physical resilience measures and the installing them in the first place, and how that relates to reduced premium for the client, it means those incentives are aligned, and that is what leads to behavioural change.
So bearing all of that in mind, do you see potential for flood flash to help reduce the humanitarian costs after floods? And if so, what would you need to do this?
Yeah, absolutely, right. So our customers at the moment are small businesses. Okay, but actually exactly the same, Ian and I cut our teeth in the world of parametric insurance, putting together $200 million catastrophe bonds and insurance-linked securities. The flood flash sensors can provide, and the flood flash pricing algorithm can provide policies to governments in developing areas to release cash fast, right? And that is often one of the real issues with post-disaster like humanitarian relief is just like, how do you get it there quickly? How do you get it there quickly enough? And if you can have an algorithmic setup that can distribute that cash to those who need it straight away, and you therefore need to know who needs it. So therefore you need to know just exactly how severe the flood has been at different locations, which you actually cannot do with tight enough accuracy with satellite data, for example. Then it opens up a whole new world of being able to use this type of cover for whole new groups of people. What do we need to make it happen? To price the type of risk properly, you have to be able to model the catastrophic risk at a tight enough resolution, right? Flood is hard to model, right? That is why this problem actually exists, right? You and I could be next door neighbors, and actually the probability of flooding could be totally different if we're on a flood. Recently, computer power has got to a point that modeling at such a high risk is possible, which is now why businesses like Flood Flash, like Provisico are becoming possible now as time. But we need those models in every country if this idea of parametric insurance is gonna help those all over the world.
Thanks, Adam. Exciting to see so much potential. Jonathan, what do you think the most valuable application of your product might be? Who would you need to work with to change the world? Tell us about your dream collaboration.
Thanks, Hannah. Yeah, so this time I remember to unmute. And I guess the thing that you can't avoid is just looking at the tremendous cost in terms of lives and livelihoods when it comes to flood. I think the UN said there was about 157,000 people who lost their lives as a result of flood in the 20 years to 2015, and another 2.3 billion who were also affected by flood. Adam was sharing with us the data from the US in terms of businesses in the US. Here in the UK, I think the stat is 40% of businesses never reopen after flood. So there's this massive issue, and that's really where the value of our application lies, is in these areas, in helping literally save people's lives and livelihoods and helping businesses to stay afloat. And I think the other really interesting thing that also flows out of this is that piece around sustainability. Every time a building has to be rebuilt because of flood, people have to go out and buy new contents because they've lost everything in a flood. Cars have to be replaced. That has a tremendous impact in terms of sustainability. And so I think that there is just so many different ways in which helping people to mitigate against the loss of flood can really impact in all forms of life. And when it comes to that dream collaboration, I sort of mentioned the organization already. I guess it has to be the UN. They're the only organization I can think of who is truly global and would have the scale and ability to help introduce flood warnings at a level which will impact the whole of the world. Those numbers I gave you are primarily coming from both Asia and Africa. And clearly those are countries in those particular continents where funding, etc., is an issue. So something like the UN can help address around that. And as I mentioned before, is the value of our service really comes into play when people are receiving a warning and they actually have the ability to take an action to prevent the flood. That means either they have some resilience measures of some sort, some means by which they can act. So I think the UN would be fantastic. I would love it if we could do something with them. And I think one of the things that we're really proud about is that we have already done some work over in Africa with the Kenyan Red Cross in helping the people of Kisumu with flood. And so, yeah, maybe as a result of this, we'll be on the UN's agenda and we can start to look at that too.
Absolutely, Jonathan. I wonder if there's anyone in the audience today who can hook us up with the right person at the UN. Let us know in the chat if you can. So in addition to finding the right partners, how important is it to find the right data source?
Yeah, that is absolutely critical to us. For the model to operate, is we set it up using topography, hydrology, hydrological information, land use data. So getting those data sources are really key, and not just finding the source of data, but also making it of the right quality as well. We have had some issues when we've looked in places like Bangladesh. Just the quality of data, unfortunately, isn't great, so therefore it really impacts us. And the other really key thing for us is about sourcing data in terms of what we call ground truth data, actually what Adam does. So Adam's sensors to us are great. We would love to be able to pick up the data which says this particular property has already got 10 centimeters of flood, because we can feed that back into our model and then reforecast. So we're producing a new forecast every 3 hours. We can forecast forward then when we think other properties potentially going to be hit by that same 10 centimeters of flood. So yeah, data is absolutely crucial, and the more ground truth data we can get around flood and what is occurring, the better.
Fab. Thank you, Jonathan. I found it super interesting to hear about the impact that predictive models and big data can have on solving some pretty large-scale problems. Maria, I understand that you actually used to work in the space industry. Can you tell us how you made this transition into the Insurtech ecosystem?
Yeah, so it was really a concatenation of events. So starting in the childhood. So I'm coming from an agriculture family. I'm from Spain, and I'm a fourth generation that we know maybe more of agriculture. And at some point, when I went to university, I left this agriculture side to study in engineering and spent 15 years of my life in satellite industry and satellite communications. And there was when the impact angle came, because I work a lot in every continent. And when Femke was talking, I could relate a lot to what she said. And I was even installing a satellite equipment in a Greenpeace boat. And there is where I see, that the world is so different, and that we are very lucky in some geographies, and in other geographies it's more tough. And there is less access to things, less access to internet, less access to insurance, less access to everything. So then I discovered my second passion, that is blockchain. And then as now I'm based out of Luxembourg, I started to work with insurers on discovering the use case of blockchain into the insurance industry. And there was when I started this link with insurance that made me very curious about it, and how the technologies I knew and my background could help in bringing these barriers of insurance down for agriculture. Because, as I say, more than 500 million farmers today don't have access to insurance, and this also is in Europe. I mean, in Spain, in my village, we don't get insurance, or it's extremely expensive. So I saw that with technology, we could really attack the two big problems of agriculture insurance, that are the cost of claims and the cost of acquisition. So then in these meetings with insurers, I met my co-founder, Jean-Baptiste, that is an actuary, and also my other co-founder, Annette, that has more than 30 years experience in agriculture insurance and has pioneered inclusive insurance. And we decided to work together and build a team and our diverse backgrounds to fight this problem.
I think I'm cutting out Wi-Fi with my Wi-Fi slightly. Can someone just confirm if they can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Jemima. Oh, you've cut out. I'll jump in, as Jemima is a little bit frozen. Well, Maria, it was great to hear about making the jump between industries. I hope we can inspire other people to make that same jump as you did. So it sounds like collaboration is really key. And on that topic, Noelle, many Insurtechs rely on progressive insurance partners. So what is it about Climbs that makes you more open to working with made you more open to working with Ibiza? And also looking forward, are you planning on creating more partnerships and distribution channels in the future?
We are work as a mutuals, as a cooperative, we collaborate. Principle of the co-ops is cooperation among co-ops at the same time with those who have passions also on how we can help climate resiliency Filipinos. Philippines is really part the agricultural area, and then a lot of change of their professions already. And I mean to say the work from farming to become a different work, because they believe that farming is not that profitable. So at the same time, protection is not inclusive for the farmers in the Philippines. And as a cooperative, the setup of Climbs is social protection, not only on lives, but also with property. What happened in Haiyan, we came up with an insurance product that will cover flood insurance for an amount only of 4,000 pesos, just around, and then the premium is like 50 pesos or $1, because we want to cover Filipinos that will be affected. But when we look into those who want to help, in the Philippines, like this word parametric insurance, the trigger, and then in fact we have some difficulty understanding on it because a lot of Filipinos are just like me before I joined Climbs. I'm also a skeptic on technology, how technology will determine triggers and how triggers will be created by technology. So like a flood or a rainfall or excess wind speed. But I think there's a chance on this as we tried. We are very open on partnership as long as it can go back again to our stakeholders, to the market that created us. We Climbs created not as a profit-oriented organization. We are a cooperative, but we have to sustain also our costs. That's why doing microinsurance business is it's really high in terms of claims because there's a lot of considerations, ex gracias. Even regulators will ask us why you pay that claim which that is not payable supposed to be. But these are also our owners. This is also our policyholders. We serve the policyholder at the same time. They are the owner, and it's the mandate also that we have to be innovative on responding their needs of the cooperative market, of the cooperative members that we have. Right now, our battle cry, we want to insure 20 million lives in 2024. So that's our battle cry. We generated two years ago around 4 million lives insured. And since we are a general insurance, we bundled products, a life and a non-life, from a calamity insurance, and then with a life insurance, a cash assistance, and in fact, we created a fire insurance cash assistance first loss because we want to cover the members, and that is how I think that the future will look like when you in the Philippine setting, like a lot of Filipinos, only 12 or 15% of that are covered by insurance, and part of that is a mandatory insurance by the government. So I think partnering with technology like Ibiza, they are expert into blockchain, and that can help. We are very open on this kind of innovation because this is the way to go. Innovation is really the game today, and everybody is using cell phones. Everybody is using applications. So in fact, I think harnessing the data that we have, a lot of data available, but nobody is taking good care on its use, in its usage. And Ibiza teaches us that how we can maximize the rainfall that cause flood or precipitation, and then we involve also our cooperatives, part of the product development. We introduce them also. We ask them also what they want. So I think that's what we think that the right thing to do.
Thank you, Noel. That's super interesting. And on the topic of cell phones, my Wi-Fi dropped out, so I hope that didn't cause any problems. I'm now hotspotting my mobile, so fingers crossed this is working now. But yeah, just on to the final bit of the session. We're going to do a quick fire round. So if you could all give 20 to 30-second answers, that would be fantastic. I'm going to just go around my screen. So Jonathan, I'm going to start with you. I'm then going to go to Maria, Noel, and finally Adam. So the question is, what needs to shift to drive the mass scaling of Insurtechs that enable us to recover after extreme weather hits? So Jonathan, you kick off.
It's got to be one of two things. Either there's got to be a financial rationale or reason to do it, or there's got to be government coming in to force it to happen. And taking, in the context of what we do, the things for me would be is that one of the key things is resilience measures. And so at the moment, there's only one insurer who actually builds back better after a flood event. And so, that would be great to see, not just that, but actually every new build in this country being told that they have to build with flood resilience in mind. Every time you put in a planning permission for any property extension improvement, again, have to do it with flood resilience in mind. Those are sort of things that will already start to have an impact.
Thanks, Jonathan. And Maria, what about you?
I think for us is first regulation, that parametric insurance is not widespread in many countries. So there is not multiple countries where we can work. Like the time to market is quite long because a lot of things need to happen. And the second is that insurance is a difficult product. So it's not something sexy for farmers or something that people will think when they wake up in the morning, I want to buy insurance. So I think that the best way to demonstrate the value of transferring the risk is really by getting benefits from the insurance. So for me, a good way of scaling insurance products is really the doing an embedded products that the farmers use as a first necessity, like credits, like inputs, like when they get buy from food companies. So embed insurance into first need products, so that when they need an insurance, when they have a weather event, a shock, then they see the benefit, and then it's much faster to realize that insurance is a key tool for resilience and to recover from shocks.
So again, that collaboration and partnerships angle seems really important. What about you, Noel?
For me, it's more on the literacy, education, understanding the aspect on what is parametric, and then down to the level so that we can get the trust. And another thing also for me is the partnership. We have to trust with partners, because it will synergize, no? It creates synergy. It will add more. And the other thing also is regulators must be proactive. And just like in the Philippines, they're very proactive on microinsurance and very supportive. The Insurance Commissioner, Puna, is very supportive on the activities, and even the launching that we had, he attended. So those may be the magic keywords that can take off this project.
I'm hoping you can all go have some really productive conversations about partnerships at the roundtable sessions after. And finally, Adam, what do you think the answer is to this question?
I think there's no silver bullet, right? But I think everything that my fellow panelists have said is absolutely spot on. Noel, what you're saying about education, about parametric insurance is so important, but that is happening, right? That is every time. Now we go to a new retail broker's office and we asked, who has heard of parametric insurance? Now most people are putting their hands up, right? Even 12 months ago, it was maybe one brave person putting their hand up. Like that is changing, and it is changing faster with every single week. The other incremental things are like this is quite a UK-centric one, but like insurance premium tax. Like what are you doing? Like why is that? Why is that where it is? It's quite clearly important that as we build a more resilient world, to encourage people to take out the necessary protection for these events and to transfer the risk to those who can take it. Why is that being taxed at a rate that is A, penalizes the product, but B, penalizes the creators of those products, because insurance intermediaries have to pay VAT on everything they're buying, but they can't claim it back like most other businesses. So therefore, you're stifling the very hotbeds of innovation that are supposed to be fixing that. So yeah, that just makes no sense to me from a policy perspective, if that's what we're trying to achieve.
Great answer, Adam. Maybe we can speak to Insurtech UK about that one and try and get some policy changes put forward. If anyone out there wants to share their own thoughts on what needs to shift to drive the mass scaling of Insurtechs that enable us to recover after extreme weather, please pop it in the chat, as we're really interested in identifying and removing these barriers. I hope you've all enjoyed hearing from our innovative panelists and feel full of optimism now we have seen the potential for climate resilience. We're going to open up the floor to questions now. So we'll start with some that have been pre-submitted, and we'll then move on to your live questions as they start to come in the Q&A sidebar. So let's start with a nice big juicy question. Where do you see the biggest opportunity space for Insurtech to come in and improve climate resilience? What big gap in the market is waiting to be filled? Does anyone want to jump in on this?
This is not a very inspired answer, considering it's all we've been talking about all day. But the uncovered catastrophe risk, right? That is the big gap in the market waiting to be filled, that the traditional market won't do at the moment. And it is a huge problem, but it is a huge opportunity.
Fantastic. We're just starting to get some questions coming in. So have there been any examples of insurers partnering with utilities to accelerate the transition to net zero buildings? For example, a decreased risk attached to energy efficient businesses / buildings as proven by the utility. Does anyone feel like they want to answer that one?
When it comes to buildings, I'm not so familiar with that. I mentioned we've been doing quite a bit of work with BT and similarly with working with a number of other utilities as well. And there's definitely, a huge amount that is possible in this area. I know that, for instance, a number of buildings now have a variety of sensors. And all of a sudden there's some massive impact that is being gained in terms of actually helping those buildings to be far more using energy, etc. And consequently, that's having a really significant environmental impact. Again, when it comes to us, we're kind of really interested in that whole idea that there are sensors in buildings which can help us pick up data to help us, again, prevent hopefully loss and therefore the consequences of sustainability on that as well.
I'm not sure. I think the improved energy efficiency for buildings, I'm not sure that necessarily translates to a reduction in risk. It might do in some ways, and you have more modern kind of insulation might mean to or modern piping means you're less likely to have escape of water events, perhaps less likely to have fires. But to me, the obvious benefit there is not reduced insurance premiums, but reduced power bills, reduced energy spending. I think that seems a more natural opportunity to me than that translating to an insurance benefit.
Just on that smart sensor topic, can you see companies that are innovating with kind of smart sensors expanding their business models to incorporate kind of an Insurtech angle to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, there's people like Leapbot are out there already doing it around in residential properties. So it's a great way for that to apply. Another IoT device which is out there is obviously a black box in a car. So yeah, a huge amount of opportunities still, I think, to manage so much insurance risk through use of sensors and IoT devices. It's one of the areas that we've invested in as well. So we know that one of the challenges that we have is that local sort of culverts or small streams, the Environment Agency doesn't cover those off in their flood forecast. So if we can stick a small little sensor into those sort of areas, we can then pick up again when flood is coming through. And indeed, we're just about to do our first major project with a large insurer in that from November, and similarly actually with a utility company as well, who are going down that route. So yeah, IoT devices like that are absolutely vital to how we can all get better at managing risk.
Thanks, Jonathan. Another question in: how can Insurtechs better model climate risk beyond moving beyond long tail events and catastrophic risk and incorporate systemic transition risk? It did sound very complicated, that one.
Yes, that's above my pay grade, Hannah.
Well, maybe I can take it.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Maria.
So, I mean, at the end, is not only it's a risk management. So here is about risk management and about risk decorrelation. So I think that first is really to get a good understanding of the risk and see how this risk is, or the different type of risk, and then really analyze how they correlate this risk and how to take this risk in a sustainable manner. So when looking at catastrophic events, yes, this will happen. Or for example, COVID, you are talking about 1 in 100-year events. So this is a lower premium. And when you talk about systemic and risks that are more often like a droughts, like climate change is bringing this systemic risk. So I think it's not only the answer of, it's an answer of a society, risk management, and being risk transfer, one of these tools to allow this. And also the understanding on the other side of, I think I like a lot when Noel and Adam talk about education. For many people, insurance is a black box. So you don't know if the premium is high, is low, is adequate, is not. So I think that explaining what are the key drivers of the premium, the exposure to the risk, the sum insured, and the frequency of the risk. Are you securing a 5-year event or a 100-year event? And when there is this understanding, then I think this systemic risk can be better understood, better managed, and also build products around. Yeah.
Thank you, Maria. That's super interesting. Just on that topic of risk, Noel, perhaps one for you. How do you think insurers and corporate clients can best work together to mitigate this risk, whether that's to do with agriculture or flooding? I
think one of that is pooling or the reinsurance. Like when we there's now a move in the Philippines that the regulator is encouraging all insurance companies will take a catch out, will accept catastrophic insurance, cat. So I think pooling, just like also in the partnership that we have with Ibiza, they provide technology through blockchain, and then we have also reinsurance of global parametric, because it is where you determine also the capacity of an insurance companies, how they can pay claims, and how we pass it on also in case big event will happen. So the companies that are players must understand that insurance is determination on the future events, but you have to set up also a certain portion which will be determined by underwriters and actuaries on the future losses.
Thanks, Noel. Another good one just come in. Are there any upcoming technological developments you're particularly excited about within Insurtech? So open to anyone who has some ideas for that.
Maybe I can get started. So yeah, of course, blockchain. So I think there is a huge potential at many different levels, including at the reinsurance levels and groups of reinsurers that today that is adding a lot of cost when you need to work with multiple, with the market. So optimizing this transaction and optimizing everything in order to pay fast, and so to make this chain more integrated. The problem today is that there is a big frictions between the different players in the chain, and the idea is how technology can lower these frictions and make more seamless products. And the second one, of course, is the amount of data that now is being available to build new products, to innovate in how products are built and how losses are assessed. So I think insurance is a business of data. So the more data, the better. And and finally, I'm very excited about embedded insurance and how this can help in really scaling insurance initiatives in markets that are less obvious.
Thanks, Maria. Just kind of on a similar topic, someone has asked, in the past, developers of banking tech tended to sell it to incumbent banks rather than use it to start new banks. Will disruptive Insurtech be rolled out mainly by incumbents?
I think
feel like you could all answer this.
It's quite interesting in industry from the point of view of that question, in that unless you can raise like a massive balance sheet off the bat, you have to partner with incumbents, whether that be as clients or as investors or as providing the insurance capital behind what you're writing there. I almost can't think of another industry where that is the case. But those incumbents, like every cliche, right? They'll take a long time. They'll take a long time to do things. For us, when my co-founder Ian and I were first sort of formulating the very first ideas of the business, so we have a sensor, we have a pricing algorithm. If we bring this to a big insurer, given that the fundamental insurance product was so different, we felt they were just going to say, okay, well, now we need to sort of see you need to prove the demand is there before we do it. So we felt that the setting up an intermediary, an MGA in our own right, was the best way for us to demonstrate that this market exists, that people will buy this product, that people will underwrite the product, the distributors will sell it. And so it has proved.
Interesting. So, sorry, Jonathan, because I
was just going to build on that, because actually looking at it from the questions coming from the financial side, where it just kind of the tech went into the big banks. I think one of the things that building on Adam's just saying there is that it's more about partnering. I think quite often with the Insurtech in the insurance sector, and I feel that there is some quite interesting ways forward, whereby clearly there are those businesses that can through those partnerships start to scale enough, then they can really fly and move forward on the back of that. And certainly our approach is all about trying to partner with the insurers. But as we talked about earlier, a big thing for us is the whole humanitarian side, and so therefore we see the ability to grow a very successful commercial business, but using that commercial success to also drive on the humanitarian side of the equation as well. So in many ways, I think actually that's quite a good thing for insurer to partner with, as opposed to just try and take over. It'd be interesting to see how the various models evolve over time.
Interesting. So off the back of that, along the same lines, same question, but will it be different in the developed world if we compare it to how a product might be used in the developing world? So is it more likely that the incumbents or the new players are going to be using it in those different markets? Maybe one for you, Noel.
That depends on the need, because insurance creates the needs of the people in the developing countries compared to other developing countries. I think there should be a government push on the side of the developing countries, wherein, like in the Philippines, we are sitting in the ring of fire, and then we have a lot of volcanoes. I think this year there's one already erupted, and then so prior I still go with the insurance related to the needs of the people.
Thank you, Noel. I'm just looking at the tiny clock in the bottom corner of my laptop, and we are out of time. Thank you so much for some great questions, and a massive thank you to our panelists for sharing their thoughts with everyone. If you would like to speak to them in more depth, I'm sure you will catch them at one of the round tables coming up shortly. But before that, we're just going to pass back over to Stephen, who will be joined by Victoria Roberts from Tech Nation. Thank you, everyone.
Hello, everybody. That was amazing. Thank you so much to the panelists for taking part. I've written so many notes, so I've had to change pens. I have been asked to remind you all, well, so shall I say, Hannah, my conscience, has reminded me that we formed a LinkedIn group as a starting point to pick up after this event. And I believe you will have received a LinkedIn request from something you've probably never heard before called the Climate Resilience and Insurtech Group, and hopefully we can be good friends after this. Please can you accept that, and from this, and at the end of the session we will come up with some suggestions of things that we could be talking about on that group, the kind of threads that we want to do and what we might do next. But as a starting point, please could you accept that? Thank you. So I'm about to give you a quick intro so you can make your choice as to which breakout group you'd like to join. And Victoria, I think, is going to follow me and tell you how to do it, because I have no idea. I think a button's going to appear, but she will explain to you all how that works. So there are 4 tables that you could choose from. I've written them down here. So the first one is Insurtech 101. So this is a safe place to discuss the absolute basics. Can you remind me what parametric is again? How does it work? Is this right for me? You know, and this is going to be headed up by Nyasha from Floodflash, who knows a thing or two about parametrics and a few others too. But I think she will be facilitating a conversation about just really Fisher-Price level questions. Don't be afraid to. What we're really trying to do with that group is to just make sure that none of this stuff has been lost in language of one group talking to another. So please don't let this get too complicated, make it very accessible. The daftest question wins. The second group is the Insurtech business model or business models. And this is to give those of you who have been hearing so many things, certainly in the last 40 minutes, around parametrics and payout systems and targeting and some of the clever new technologies entering Insurtech, for you to understand whether they may be relevant to your idea. Because a lot of this stuff is models. So Richard Chattock from the Insurtech Gateway, he's our chief exec, so I always pick him up. He is well-versed in the systems of insurance and Insurtech and the kind of thing you might be needing. He'll be joined by Rob Lumley, also a co-founder of the Insurtech Gateway, to really see if they can just help you just understand the basics. So don't be afraid to talk about your idea. How does it fit? Could this work with parametric? So once again, daftest idea wins. There is no prize for, there are no investments happening in this session. The third table, what big climate resilient problems could we and should we address together? That will be hosted by Femke, who is brave enough to take on a topic of that magnitude. So, and also joined by Sammy from Tech Nation. With the hope that you guys could come back to us and think of some brilliant, hopefully from what we just heard, catastrophes that we could solve, things that we could do to help move the ship along. And the fourth is much more practical. Ollie from the Gateway is going to give you some tips on just the real basics of asking for money. For those of you that haven't pitched a VC before, this is the softest, this is the dragon with the rounded teeth and the smallest puff. That's not Ollie, that's just generally the idea of the table. But please, this is your opportunity to ask, what do I do? How do I present myself when founding a business? How do I make it both investable and impactful? So I think that should be enough. Now, Victoria, could you help the group make their choices?
Good afternoon. Certainly, I'm Victoria Roberts from Tech Nation. A lot of us have been corresponding quite a lot already this afternoon on the chat. So I hope you've been enjoying the session so far. I've certainly learnt a lot and got me thinking some questions about these really important topics. Now, I have the very important job of getting you all to the right place. So you are currently on the Hopin platform on the main stage. If I could invite you to look to the left, there should be a number of icons, of which one will be sessions. So jump over to that menu, click on sessions, and then there'll be a drop down where you should be able to join the group. I think there's also an extra fifth group where if you just want to meet and greet, talk to like-minded or different-minded people that have been in the chat this afternoon, you might find some old or new friends there as well. We've got about 20 minutes. There's a limit on the sessions. I'm not sure we'll reach that, but we just did that, so there was still enough opportunity to really chat. So hopefully you'll be able to either jump into the one that you found most attractive, or maybe hop between them as the sessions go on. And then there will be an opportunity right at the end to just come back together for a few minutes, hear what was happening in the other groups, and to wish you well on your way.
Well, welcome back. It's now time to wrap up. What can I say? I hope you're all feeling inspired and intrigued to know more. I mentioned the LinkedIn group that's going to hopefully get the next thing started. But what I wanted to do is just, I'm slightly stalling for time as I'm getting WhatsApped by the various people running the round table to tell me what was coming back. I had a few things, I did a few dips in and out, so I'll do my best. But I've heard how table 2, we're looking at Insurtech models, have been that we're particularly interested in how we might mitigate failing to hit net zero, or we could somehow put Insurtech and the net zero targets together, and we could protect ourselves in the inevitability of not quite making it, which I thought was an interesting start. I hope I haven't misunderstood that, but there's nothing like a bit of pressure there. From Roundtable 1, which was the ask any question about insurance, in case you want it repeated. A lot of interest in the parametric model, no surprise, from Nyasha, around clearly we're going to, it's not, although it's interesting and fascinating, it's clearly not the flavour of the month. And blah, blah, blah. And don't worry about these feedback anymore from Jemima. So that's good to know. I made a few of my own notes from the earlier stuff, and I just wanted to share those with you too, because I really wanted to make sure that we did something meaningful after this. And it's not one of those brilliant meetings that everybody just says that was interesting. And I think there are three different things that we need to try and make happen after this. We need to make this forum welcome to new founders and people who are struggling to get an idea off the ground. And we need to continue to have the kind of newbies place that you could say, where do I start? I've got a good idea, a good problem to solve, where do I start? I think we have some really interesting thinking coming from the other side, from new stuff I'd never heard before, from people from the climate space and social entrepreneurship space, highlighting the importance of education. I mean, it's not surprising these models aren't working because people need to understand them better. Parametric is new to you, it's crazy to us. You know, it's a thing that needs explaining. You need to find your opportunities to explain it, whether it be, as Ibisa explained to us, when you're distributing seeds, you have a chance to explain it and explain how it works and why it works for you. And that point of intervention is going to be critical to get these revolutionary models that we're just getting used to, called Insurtech, to people who have never, potentially not even heard of or used insurance before. So I thought that was fascinating. About the idea of, so where's the UN guy? But clearly we need to be able to ask, I need to post, can somebody connect me to? And particularly with our social entrepreneurs and groups on this chat now and on this network, we'd like to be able to say, can somebody help me find this person that could help me think at scale or think in other markets? So we're going to need this. And there's also this fascinating area in the middle, and it was really characterized by Adam in some of the responses and the Q&A. But I really wrote down a list of things that need to be kind of driven in the middle here. I'm not sure if I feel qualified to do it, but I wrote it down, which is there's clearly issues around regulation around parametrics and it being a bona fide and allowable system that we can scale. That climate PT, what are we trying to make happen here? If we're trying to, maybe we can get some intervention here. Big pools of capital. I had just heard on a talk from the Looking for Spaces table, and global maps, sort of global. The idea that we would have some kind of global data set sort of enable us. I know all these things are in play, but maybe we need a central column which is thinking at scale or unlocking scale. So I've left today with a sense of newbies unlocking scale and asking questions of the impact space to who we could meet and how do we get underneath education. So those are my lessons for today. In terms of how I wrap up, I think the only thing to do is just to thank you all very much. I've had live updates throughout this. Overriding feedback has been the technical production of this has been stunning. I didn't really know what I was getting into when I said I'd start talking and things would start clicking and around. So the TechNation team have blown the doors off it. So thank you so much for all your help and your endeavours to make this run so smoothly. It's been very impressive from where I've been sitting. And thank you all for joining.